Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fiction genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Supernatural. So in this episode, the Winchesters get a new case that takes them to a town with a folklore about a thing called Black Bill, once called Black William. It's basically a satyr that basically it like draws you in with lust and everything, and then it has like a huge orgy and everything, and then it eats all the people involved until it gets stuffed. Because basically at the beginning we see this boy named Jarrett ended up getting killed by this thing. Well, basically it knocks him out, basically drags him off to take him somewhere else. Basically ended up finding out that the sheriff in that town, his name's Bishop. I mean, his name is Barry, but, the family name is Bishop. Apparently, his family kind of runs everything in town. Because in this particular case, there was, like, a family, like, there have been missing cases for, like, the past, like, a long time, like, what was it, like, about 20 years ago, there was, like, a 20-year period where there was, like, a lot of people, one person disappearing every year. And then all of a sudden it stopped, and now it kind of started up again, obviously with this boy Jarrett, and obviously there was this boy Darren involved too, mainly because he's the one that noticed this thing, because basically it's like something wearing a goat head and everything. They end up learning from Bishop, Barry, because the sheriff was acting very nonchalant about it. The fact is that Dean and them were like, okay, like, why are you acting like, oh, he's gone and everything. I mean, Jarrett, they end up bringing up the fact that Jarrett has a pretty messed up background and everything, so it's like, oh, there's no wonder he left and everything. It's like, oh, Darren's gone? He's most likely wake up, find him somewhere else. It's like, no, because the sheriff knew more about it, but I think he didn't want to really, he probably went, obviously, like, Sam and Dean did their own investigating and stumbled upon, like, the place at the bottom of his basement, with all like, well, it's almost like a torture chamber where like the perfect place for killing. Because even Dean makes a comment. What was it like? It's like, why do all the rich people kind of have this kind of dirty secret? It's like, oh yeah, they could obviously just go and do cocaine, but the fact of the matter is, it's like, oh, what's even better? Murder. But the fact is that the sheriff shows up because obviously he probably seeing the disappearance, he kind of thought something was fishy, and he ends up going there and explains to Sam and Dean. Basically, his family made a deal with this god known as Moloch, who is a god of sacrifice. Basically, his family would just pick some random person out in the forest and kill them, dressing up in a whole satyr outfit with the like goat head on and everything. Hence the whole Black Beal story. So technically it doesn't exist, but technically it does. But really, it's just one person. Like, it's not like this, because I was under the impression it's like, oh, this thing itself is Moloch. It's like, no, they're dressed like that as a symbolic, I guess, ritual for Moloch. But essentially, they would kill people and feed their blood to Moloch, and Moloch will reward them by helping them flourish, basically making it so that their family runs the entire town. But obviously that's slowly dwindling because over the years, like, the family's fortune has kind of dwindled down. The meat factory that they kind of, well, the meat, I guess plant is the better word, I guess, but that's kind of running out and everything. So what I like was, because like, honestly, the big thing about Supernatural obviously is like finding out, okay, who's actually the secret bad guy, who's that thing that obviously in this case the person behind everything was really just a normal human, obviously, but they basically let Moloch free. Is why everything's been going down the way it has. And so I was like, okay, so who ends up being the one to help them? I was kind of going for the lady in the, I don't know, was it the diner? The one that was kind of with Dean, just because of the whole, like, oh, sucks you in with lust and everything, and an orgy. And I was like, oh, yeah, like, obviously, like, you see Dean up there lusting with her. Then the fact that he's lusting after this food, even after going to the plant and everything, kind of seeing the behind-the-scenes work of everything. Like, Sam's like, okay, dude, we just saw what we saw. Why are you so eager to eat meat and stuff like that right now? Why are you just, like, chowing down on that burger like it's the best thing ever? So I was kind of going for her, but then, I had my suspicions about Pete, but I was like, it's probably not Pete. Turns out it's Pete, because Pete is apparently, he's a bishop. He's half bishop. He's Barry's half brother. And for him, it's like, the fact of the matter is he was kind of cast outside of the family. Like, he never lived in a big, like, mansion or whatever that Barry grew up in and everything. Because the fact is, Barry stopped all this. The moment his dad died, he didn't continue that whole sacrificial stuff. He didn't ever take part in it. His family did, his father did it, and his father's father, but he didn't want to take part of it. He's like, I'm not about to kill somebody. But Barry stumbled upon it because he wanted to find something that would be, useful for him, that basically kind of gained back his rightful place amongst the Bishop family. It's like the Bishop family's had all the success, but because, my mom, because my mom was kind of a side chick, I never got to be a part of that world, so I was just kind of cast on the outside. And so basically he came into the house looking for something, and then he ended up talking to Moloch promised him everything. So that's what he's been doing, trying to reclaim what he wants. And there was an interesting moment where he was talking to Sam, he was talking to Dean, and he was like, the fact of the matter is, we hunt people, we kill people, it's the family business. And there's a moment where you have Dean kind of looking, almost like turning towards the camera and looking at the camera like, really? Love inside jokes. I really appreciated that. It was just so, one of those things you can't, it's literally like, oh man, this is dad's favorite bat. It's literally like that. It's just like, I loved it. But, that's what this is all been about. And he's even going like, oh yeah, when it's all said and done, he's like, I will be the hero of the town. I was like, in what shape or form you consider, I guess he considers himself a hero because once he makes the deal with Moloch gets enough, because he hasn't been fed in like 20 years, so gets enough blood in his system, he'll be able to grant him all the fortune back, and basically he can save the town and save the Bishop name that basically his brother Barry is kind of throwing down the toilet, because Barry's trying to sell off everything. I guess mainly because for Barry, it's because he doesn't want that to be his legacy. He wanted something more. He didn't want that just to be tied to his family's legacy. That like our family's legacy is just sacrifices and everything. But at the end of the episode, his brother, Pete, ends up getting killed, and then Sam and Dean use the cult to kill Moloch, which obviously we can see the cult works on gods. I think I looked it up once, but I never read too deeply into it. Maybe it was brought up in the past. Once again, it's been a long time since I've seen the earlier seasons, especially stuff related to the cult. I'm pretty sure I brought it up once before. I don't remember how they actually lost the cult in the first place, but nevertheless, they're like, because even the Alpha Vampire brought it up, there are like 5 things the cult can't kill. Does that include Lucifer? Would Lucifer kind of fall under that? Like, or probably I would assume archangels, but then like, why wouldn't it be able to kill Archangel? Like, it can kill, I don't know. I don't know if Lucifer really just counts as just an archangel, because like the status he's kind of gained as being the devil. He's kind of like top tier. He's not even considered, he's not an archangel, is he? Archangel's actually a step below him. I forgot how the whole angel hierarchy works. So I'm sure him and Michael are like the top tier angels, so I don't know. Because we know that the cult doesn't necessarily work on princes of hell, because it didn't work on Dagon. Granted, maybe it was just terrible timing, because the moment the bullet came, Dagon disappeared. But I think she probably did that on purpose. She saw the bullet coming and just moved. So I guess it's a situation where like even that might not be enough to kill them. If it hit them, sure, but they're wily enough to, I don't know. Maybe that's the case, maybe it's not. I'm very curious, what is that 5 things that they can't kill? Makes you wonder, would Amara be one of those things they can't kill? Probably. Her and Chuck. Because that whole conversation about Barry's like whole decision, like, yeah, this is what family legacy, my family legacy, this is all there is for. Because basically he's telling Sam and Dean to leave, that he's going to clean up everything, deal with it. And so, because for him, it's like, this is all that his legacy is. That's all the Bishop name will be known for. No, I guess that's also that's why he wanted to be a sheriff too, rather than, because he left all the business stuff to Pete. He's like, that's why he's like, Pete runs the day to day. It's like, he didn't care for the whole business because he knew the foundations of what the business was built on, sacrificing people, and he didn't want to be a part of that. He wanted to do good to help people. Like, he wanted rather spend most of his time as a sheriff. But that started getting Sam and Dean thinking, like, especially Dean's like, so what is our legacy going to be? Do you think people will remember us? And Sam's frank, he's like, no, they won't. People like us, history books tend to not remember us. The people who save us, we saved, sure, they'll remember us, but even then, like, once they go, who's to say that we don't go with them? But at the very least, he's like, that's fine, because the fact is, we were here and we made the world a better place, That at the end of the day, that's all that matters. That's at least something we can take pride in. Which they had this beautiful moment where they're carving their initials into the table. Kind of, obviously we'll reflect and show them doing the same thing to the car, kind of leaving their mark. To be like, to all future generations, any hunters or manipulators that might be taking over the base after they're long gone, it's like, yo, Sam and Dean Winchester were here. We made our mark. We made our stand. We did a good job. We helped people. We saved people. Continue to work. We helped, that we continued. Because we picked up this mantle from our parents, technically. I mean, really, they picked it up from John, their dad, but they also got, I mean, it came, hunting's in their blood because of Mary, so I'm sure she kind of frowned upon the thought of like, oh, hunting's in the blood like that, which, you know, because obviously this isn't the life she wanted for her children, so. Now, on the other side of things, in this episode, we ended up having Mr. Ketch manipulating the Winchesters, having them, because I thought it was like, okay, so he's getting them out of the bunker so that he could basically go kill them. I thought it was like a trap, but it's like, oh, he's not coming after. It's like, oh, they're like, oh, we're doing fine. We're working on the case. Obviously, he pretended to be Mick and everything, but still don't know about the whole Mick situation. Super bummed out about that. But then it's like, no, Mr. Ketch is not killing them right away. He's gathering information. He goes into the bunker. It's like, okay, let's look for the Colt and everything, which is a good thing that Dean and Sam brought the Colt. It's like, why not bring it? You have a weapon that can basically kill any supernatural thing. It's like the best weapon to have on hand. But granted, at the same time, it's like, maybe you shouldn't always take it with you because it's like easily that could get knocked out your hand or lost or anything. So it's like the last thing you want is that weapon just accessible to anyone. So, but in this case, it turned out to be a good idea that they brought it along with him because it's like, because Dean's like, hey, we got the Colt now. Don't have to work harder trying to figure out how to kill this thing. Yeah, it's like, yeah, point, shoot, it's dead. And obviously, as we see, this thing is a god. So obviously, it was taken care of pretty easily. It literally turned into putty after it got killed. But they're literally searching everything because basically they're doing reconnaissance, trying to figure out who Sam and Dean is, how do they operate, anyone that they're connected to, because obviously Sam and Dean, they're the Winchesters. A lot of hunters know the Winchesters, some that we know over the course of the series, others we don't know. This means this also puts a lot of people that they know in danger too, especially someone like Garth. Like, he got brought up in the conversation, was that 2 episodes ago, about the whole Mick, during the whole Mick situation with that whole werewolf episode, because Garth is a werewolf, so it's like, if they find out about him, it's like, oh, you're a former hunter, and you're a werewolf? Oh, obviously we're doing the world a service by killing you. Obviously tracked down Elaine too, because of, not Elaine, Eileen. I don't know why I'm struggling with that so hard. I actually know someone in real life named Eileen. I don't know what. I'm gonna just stop and just move on. Sorry. Nevertheless, so obviously she's still a target, but they want to do a little reconnaissance first, get to know the lay of the lands and know who the Winchesters are, even have their place bugged. But you have this moment where it's like, I love the fact this Ketch is going through their stuff, ends up coming across some of Dean's poor magazines, just kind of rolls his eyes and everything. But then he comes across something he looks at a picture of Mary, younger Mary, and then I was like, oh, obviously he probably put it back or whatever. It's like, no, you see at the end of the episode, he's got it. And it's like, obviously he's saying this lie and everything about like, oh, the fact is, oh, Mick, after all that stuff that went down, he decided to go back home. So it's like, I'll be the one that you talk to from now on. So they have to talk to the guy that, probably one of the most deadliest people that they have close connections to. I mean, that's splitting hairs because it's like, technically the most deadly person they have connection to would be probably Crowley, but still, Mr. Ketch is a pretty close second. I love the fact that he's like, yeah, boys, I get it. You don't like this arrangement. Neither do I. I'd rather be with your mom right now. And on the other side of the line, you see Dean being like, and then he, like, Mr. Ketch tries to correct himself. He's like, you know, on a hunt, because your mom's hunting, what was it? A chupacabra. So, but he's staring at a picture of Mary. It's like, man, he is obsessed. To me, my mind immediately goes to the fact is, okay, what's going to happen is when it's time to kill Sam and Dean, he's going to kill them like, oh, I'm sorry, Mary, your sons, they died in a hunting accident. It's like, oh, come here and let me console you. Let me be your rock. Because it's like, I feel like he's obsessed with her. Because obviously, like, from the very beginning, you've obviously been able to tell, like, the time him and Mary were spending it. Obviously, the last episode put it in perspective, like, oh, there's definitely something there. So, I mean, from his side, like, Mary's just kind of like, no, like, it was just kind of a one-time deal. Let's not make anything of it. It's just like, we kind of got caught up in the moment. We spent enough time together. Because to him, it's like, oh, I brought it up last episode. He's like, oh, we're so similar in everything. You're built the same way I am. Just because it's like, because he thought he found a kindred spirit in Mary, turns out not to be the case. So that is the ultimate question. What's going to happen when it's all said and done? Will he actually kill Mary? Because for him, as we saw with Mick, he's willing to pull the trigger. Like, as he brought up kind of when he was talking to Mary, like, the fact is, obviously, he doesn't look back on his high school days, well, his academy days, like Mick, doesn't look back on them fondly, because they no matter what the situation is, even though he is what he is, he acts like he enjoys it, he doesn't. Like, they made him into the monster that he is. They made him into the killing machine that he is. So he doesn't look back on those days very fondly, because who's to say what stuff. We saw what Mick had to do back then. Who's to say what Mr. Ketch had to do back in the day to get to who he is right now? Like all the stuff that he's done over the course of his life. Maybe that's something we'll kind of get a peek at going forward. But that is the question. Like he is the type to follow order, but killing Mary, would that be something he's willing to do? Because obviously, like, he's a monster that suddenly now has a beating heart. I mean, in some cases, I'm sure, like, you ask Sam and Dean, if they find out everything that Mr. Ketch has ever done, they'll be like, dude, there are monsters. There are supernatural things out there that have more of a heart than you do. Because some things, they don't have a choice in the matter. They're driven, like you take ghosts, for example. Some ghosts don't do the things necessarily because they want to. They're just driven by revenge, and it forces them to become something that they're not. So overall, a very good episode. I'm very interested to see where this goes forward. Obviously, they're working closely with Mr. Ketch, not knowing what he's done and not realizing, obviously, he's got their place bugged and everything. So it's probably going to be wise for them to constantly be keeping a cult on them. I'm sure Mr. Ketch is going to be reluctant to kill them immediately until he knows for sure where the cult is. Once he gets the cult in his hands, then he'll probably kill them. So I'm sure there's definitely got to be an episode coming up where it's like he wants to make the move now, but he can't because Mary's with them. So because obviously Mary's been off doing her own thing. So I'm very curious to find out how will they find out the truth about everything, like Mick actually being dead, because obviously Dean has had his biggest reluctance. Obviously Sam has this reluctance too. Mary's the one to kind of convince him to kind of work with him. I mean, obviously they've also saw the good work that they were doing, but now it's like finding out, oh, not only do you kill monsters, I mean, obviously, which is not bad, but the fact of the matter is you obviously go out of your way to kill your own people too if they don't follow orders because of this dumb code of yours. And even then, we do know that obviously the episode with Claire showed that their methods don't always work. They end up causing more problems. That werewolf was going around biting people because the rest of his pack was wiped out. It's like we didn't bother anyone. We were just minding our own business. We weren't hurting people until, Menelater stepped in and wiped out a lot of his pack, and so he had to replenish it just because he was lonely, because wolves aren't supposed to be on their own, like the whole pack mentality. So definitely interested to see what other kind of backslide are there going to be for what they do. I'm very curious to see them. I'm wondering would they ever cross paths with her again. I need to learn the actress's name. I looked her up one time, but the actress who played Valerie from the Vampire Diaries, the one who tortured Sam. I'm very curious. We have not seen her since she got sent back by then. I'm very interested to find out more about these other elders too. The ones that were all for Sam and Dean, and working with the other hunters. Are they some of the people that have transitioned over to be like, yeah, screw all the hunters, time to clean up this mess? Or is it just Dr. Hess that's all about killing all the hunters? Like, obviously they're meant to clean up the mess. Was that the other elders' orders? Or was she just as an elder herself made a decision, nah, we're just going to wipe the slate clean, find some other means. So very interested to see where that goes. I mean, especially because it's Mick kind of brought it up last episode. It's Sam and Dean have done some good work. The fact is they've stopped a lot of apocalypses doing what they've done with the connections that knowing what they know and the connections that they've done. Once again, it's where the hell were you during all this? When Lucifer and Michael were about to duke it out, when the apocalypse, the multiple different apocalypses happened, then the whole Dean with the Mark of Cain situation, when the angels fell from heaven, it's we're the Leviathans. Where were you doing all of that? So maybe they were similarly doing something similar, but still, I don't know. There will not be an episode next week. It's taking a week off, but it will be back the following week on April 27th. So just letting you know that. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.